Now let's look at the hardware side of lean video production. There are three main aspects to the hardware. First of all, in most cases you need some kind of presentation surface, in particular for Khan-style videos, where the presentation surface may be all that you see in the final video. Then you may need a camera to show the lecturer, and in almost all cases you need to take care of audio recording, some sort of microphone, that is. Let's start with the presentation surface. The regular blackboard or whiteboard is not a good choice. Chalk and pens are hard to read, are hard to capture, there's lots of reflections, no good idea. It's better to go with the electronic version. This is a Wacom board that I'm using. It's a computer display with a pen. High quality, high price, 2,000 euros. A cheaper solution is to use Windows tablet PCs, be it the newer ones, or be it one like this, an older one that's actually 5 or 6 years old. A computer notebook with a pen. In principle, there's lots of apps for Android tablets and iPads, but in most cases you want a larger screen, not a 10-inch screen, and possibly a better pen, such as this one. I have to add, there is an Android tablet, a quite expensive one, with this sort of pen. If you want to use real paper, real pens on real paper, a visualizer, aka document camera, may be the way to go. If you use a webcam and add appropriate illumination, that may work as well. In case you have an interactive whiteboard, you can record that screen as well. Now for the camera. The cheapest solution is a webcam, or even cheaper, the front-facing camera that's built into a tablet. This is the front-facing camera of a Windows tablet priced at 200 euros. You see, that sort of camera somehow works, but isn't really great. The benefit is you're recording on the same computer on which you're recording the screencast. Everything in one place and hopefully even synchronous. A tricky issue about those front-facing cameras and also about the webcams is that they are hard to position. I had to juggle around a little until I got my head into that position on the frame. So a better choice would be to use a regular camcorder or a digital photo camera. Most photo cameras can record at least 12 minutes of video, which should be okay for most of our purposes. Plus, you can mount these devices on a tripod, pretty flexible when it comes to positioning. The flip side is you need some kind of clapperboard, like they're using in the movies, to somehow synchronize the recording that you're doing with the camcorder with the recording that you're doing on the computer, the screencast. One way of doing so would be to make some visible gesture for the camcorder, a brief gesture for the camcorder, and at the very same time produce some stroke on the tablet, like dit, dit, dit. In my view, many people underrate audio quality. You can live with pretty poor images, but audio quality is key. You cannot use the built-in microphones of tablets or notebook computers. Their frequency response is really poor and you have tons of noises, in particular when you use the pen to write on that very device you're recording with. Phone headsets, such as this or this one, are also pretty poor when it comes to frequency response. A USB microphone for 70 euros, that's what I've been using in class for 5 years now. To keep the noise level at an absolute minimum, you may want to look into earset microphones and headset microphones. This type of microphone is also used in opera performances. This is a pricey option. Such a microphone can easily cost several hundred euros. Plus, you need some device for phantom power. It's always a good idea to look into how to reduce the amount of noise. For instance, you do not want to put the tripod of a microphone onto the very desk you're using for writing. And if you have issues with the P sounds sounding like this, then you have to look into a pop filter, some kind of screen that you install between your mouth and the microphone. Here is one more piece of equipment that you may want to use, in particular if you're producing your very first course. The teleprompter. A teleprompter allows you to read from a computer monitor and still be perceived as looking right into the camera. This is standard professional technology in the TV studio, but it's also something that you can cheaply do on a do-it-yourself basis. You need the display to display the text you want to read, the camera of course, a sheet of glass, and all of that installed in a dark housing. That's pretty simple in terms of mechanics. There is one catch, however. You're reading the display in this glass mirror, which means the text on the display has to be mirrored. That's easy to do with just a little HTML, for instance. You open such a file in the web browser and it's going to appear upside down. There is more to the studio than just tablets, cameras and microphones. You have to take care of lighting in particular, or maybe not take care of lighting. This is a picture that I took with nothing else but regular daylight, for instance, making sure that I have lots of indirect lighting from different windows and no harsh shadows. If you look closely, you see that this highlight should be on the other side. The light should come from here, which it isn't. But I guess for a lean production, that's okay. And to get rid of the white wall in the background, I slightly overexposed that recording, which becomes obvious here. Instead of a white wall, you may use white cloth and possibly even illuminate that white cloth. You see that in action in a huge number of videos on Udacity, for instance. The professional choice would be using a green screen to easily be able to cut out the person in the foreground from the background. A pretty simple solution would be sitting in front of a bookshelf, but then it may be hard to have enough contrast between the background and the foreground, so be careful with complex backgrounds. If you're not using a headset microphone, but rather using a microphone that's placed at some distance from the speaker, you may get a boomy or a boxy sound depending on the room you're in. The professional option would be to have the room acoustically treated. The cheap option is to use equalization to get rid of that boxiness or boominess. Do it by software rather than by hardware. So in this video we looked into some choices for presentation surfaces, for cameras and microphones, plus how to build your own teleprompter and what to do about the environment in a studio or another setting for recording.